Hi, this is Paul Palmer. Today I want to talk about communication skills. Now, one of the essential parts about being able to train anybody in the pharmaceutical industry, in any industry, in manufacturing, in service, in business in general, anything that you want to get over, if you want to communicate and you want to ensure that the other person is understanding your communication, you can't just send it. Communication is not about talking, it's about talking and the other person listening and potentially even responding back to actually qualify that they understood what you were talking about. What I find a lot of the time is people broadcast. Now, a common tool that people use, for example, GoToWebinar. But also in the pharmaceutical industry, we have a lot of what people often call town halls. So the head of the company, the CEO, somebody sets a meeting up for him and he broadcasts it to the whole company. But where's the communication? He might be sending a message, he might be saying something, he might be talking a lot. But if it's not two-way, if it's not verified for the understanding, he may be falling on what we call deaf ears. So they might not be listening. They might just be going there because they've got half an hour off because you've asked them to the town hall. Or maybe some of them go early. I used to go to it a long time ago. And when I got there, the whole room was already full. And they used to say, oh, well, it's because we want to be there and sit near the front. But it was full at the back as well. So that doesn't really work. And it was because they were getting the time full pay, not having to work, sit there and listen. Or maybe it was really that they wanted to be there and understand what was going on. But either way, if you're communicating, you can see from the background I've got here, first thing you need to do, if somebody's talking, listen. You need to be friendly. It's a funny way of putting friendly, but it's a nice picture. You need to be open. You have to have an open mind. So to have an open mind, you have to be willing to listen. Now, one of the skills that I've had to learn over the time is to do with my listening. And I used to do something called be a completer finisher. So I knew what somebody was about to say. They had a sentence, and maybe they were halfway through it and I'd been involved and I knew what the last 5 words of the sentence were going to be. So I used to finish it for them, which is not really very friendly. And if they had been intending to say something else, well, I wasn't open-minded enough to listen and actually learn or understand or communicate with that person. Next thing we want to talk about is feedback. Now, we should always have assessments. We should have competency assessments in training. We should have maybe the 360-degree feedback that HR brings in. But to be honest, I find informal feedback is more useful because it can be delivered in a timely manner. Okay, you want to be able to assess the performance of your staff. So you have a feedback and you have a formal mechanism that you employ once a year. But really, you should be talking to your team weekly and they should be responding back. You want to find out how they're coping, whether there's any issues, especially at the moment with the pandemic. And in general, you will always want to have people give you some feedback. See, I was always feeding back to a couple of my team that they were talking too much. And then maybe 2 years later, I asked them about myself and he said, yeah, you've talked too much. But I didn't realize. Nobody had ever told me. I'd been telling them for 2 years, but nobody gave me any feedback. Nobody responded saying, well, you talk too much as well. Maybe I do. So the next one we're going to move on to is confidence. Always, in communication, you have to show confidence. If you're not confident in what you're delivering, well, you're going to stutter, you're going to err. You're going to have extra little bits in the communication that don't really matter, that distract people. Maybe you're going to twitch. Some people do. Maybe you've got your hands doing something inappropriate. I don't know. Maybe they're going like this and stretching. Or actually, one of the really bad ones for me is this. I know it's messing up my background, but don't worry. It's a sign of superiority. Body language I find is interesting. It's the last one we have on the slide today, non-verbal communication. So body language, this one, they're superior. They're not really listening to your message. So if somebody sat like that, how do you deal with it? Do the same. Sit opposite them and sit in exactly the same position, mirroring. Soon change what they're doing, because they realize that you're not actually accepting their superiority. They probably don't think about it in the they probably don't think about it consciously. It's probably more subconscious. They think, oh, well, they're doing it as well, and the subconscious trickles them back to something else. Another thing, openness, open positions. I'm interested in listening to you. I'm interested. I'm interested. I'm not interested. I'm not interested. I don't want to know. I know. You can sit in a lot of different positions, but generally a cross position is closed and an open position is ready to communicate and listen and be actually involved in the conversation. Because that's what communication is about usually. It's a conversation. It's not just broadcasting. If you want to just send an email and you complain because they don't reply within 5 minutes, well, why don't you pick up the phone? It doesn't make sense. Email for me could be tomorrow. Yeah, if they really want to talk to me, they'll pick up the phone. Or they'll send me a direct message, which I'm not sure it's much better than email, because it's still non-verbal communication. It's still text, which is not really something that we're really, I suppose, designed for as people. And I'm going to get onto that in another session. We're going to talk about how people, their physiology is actually there for 3D communication. It's not there for text on a screen. It's not there for text on a wall, in a book even. It's people. People like to communicate with people, like feedback. They should be listening, but often don't. They need to be open-minded if they want to actually listen. Friendliness, confidence in what you have to say. Not necessarily being assertive, but confident. Okay, so that's it for today. Hope you enjoyed it. Talk to you soon. It's Paul Palmer, by the way.